Now
so
you're being
daft.
I mean, now you're being daft
it's
and mad.
ridiculous. No, I'm just
you're being ridiculous.
No, I'm showing you the ridiculousness of your position.
Maybe.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. What you're about to see is not just another television spat, it's one of the most brutal confrontations on free speech we've witnessed in years. Richard Tice, leader of Reform UK, goes head-to-head with Ed Balls, and the result...
That's exactly what you're saying, Ed.
I think
as long as you agree with it, you agree with free speech.
Look, Richard,
you're going down Keir Starmer's route.
A demolition of the double standards that have poisoned British politics. Ed tried to corner him on tax, on health, even on party members, but Tice didn't just answer, he turned the tables.
Absolute rubbish. If you're
so he's not advising the Reform Party on health policy?
And we never said he was.
And but you had him on the platform.
Have you lost it? I mean,
I
believe he might help the American government.
This clash exposes exactly why the establishment fears reform and why free speech is hanging by a thread in Britain. Stay with me, because the moment Ed Balls loses his cool tells you everything about Labour's hypocrisy. Before we dive in, make sure you hit like. It tells the algorithm that this debate matters. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the takedowns the mainstream would rather you never see.
They've bought a house.
Well, at the end of the day, Nigel is the MP for Clacton, and
but doesn't own a house there, you just told us.
Look, his partner's bought a house in Clacton. Those arrangements are for them. His constituents want to know, is he in the constituency? Is he looking after them and doing a great job? To which the answer is yes.
But you know
yes.
what the tax issue is here, don't you?
Yeah. Anybody who buys a house, you pay the appropriate level of stamp duty.
But what
you
is
take
the tax
the advice?
issue?
You take the advice. He will have taken.
Do you know what the tax issue is? Which is why we're.
I'm not his tax expert.
No,
I'm not his tax advisor.
But the policy issue here. Do you understand the policy issue we're raising? If he bought it or his partner bought it, I mean, do you know why we're asking this?
Yes, I understand that the appropriate level of tax has to be paid by the appropriate person.
And if he bought the house, would the appropriate level of tax be higher or lower than if his partner bought the house?
I think it's very clear and simple. His partner bought the house. That is what he is confirmed.
And if
occasionally, when you're giving an interview, you talk in a roundabout way.
If his partner bought the house, the tax would be lower.
You don't get it exactly word perfect.
If the partner bought the house, would the tax be lower because it's her first home? If he bought the house, he had other homes, it would be a higher level of tax. He said he'd bought the house.
I'm not a tax expert. I don't know the details.
You're not.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Richard Tice, we are all experts on stamp duty as a result of all the questions.
After 2 weeks of discussing Angela Rayner,
Angela Rayner's tax. I mean, this is the whole point. People want to know if this is Nigel Farage.
Has
let me ask the
appropriate amount
question.
of tax been paid? And to which the answer is, I'm 100% sure, certainly.
OK, but people want to know why, then, Nigel Farage said that he'd bought a house in Clacton.
Because
the people of Clacton want to know.
He didn't buy it. He didn't buy it. His partner bought it.
Nigel and I give dozens of interviews every week.
And
We're
every single one will be scrutinised.
And occasionally, of course, you may be busy, you may be thinking. Sometimes you describe I or we. You know, it's part of the process.
Richard, his partner bought the house, not Nigel, to get a lower stamp duty, right? And that's tax avoidance.
That's your assumption. That's nothing. I've no idea. No, but I don't discuss their personal business affairs.
It may be. Well, we've been discussing Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister.
She's the Deputy Prime Minister who spent her years in opposition calling Tory ministers to resign consistently over the slightest transgression, and they came to power saying that they were going to be a model of integrity and perfection.
You would hopefully also say that if you came to power, you would be the absolute model of integrity, especially on things like tax.
Absolutely, but occasionally people will misspeak when they're in the middle of an interview and you get the odd pronoun or whatever.
But that's not the slightest transgression. That's an even slighter transgression than the slightest transgression.
But you're absolutely sure that the appropriate amount of tax has been paid.
The suggestion otherwise, frankly, is just wrong.
OK, and it does not matter that the MP for Clacton is not the person who owns the house in that constituency. That's not an issue.
You're not obligated to. I mean, at the end of the day, have you got access to a residential home in your constituency so that you can spend an appropriate amount of time there looking after the constituents? Nigel has. He's doing a brilliant job for the constituents. And that's one of the reasons why we're leading in the polls. People like what we're doing, whether it's on the small boats, disaster and catastrophe, whether it's on the brilliant conference we've just had, which is going to put all the other conferences to shame, whether it's the huge savings that we're identifying that I talked about in my speech on Saturday, whether it's on the wasteful spending by the Bank of England, the ludicrous spending, 30 billion quid on net stupid zero, the massive savings I've identified in the local government pension scheme, which is another massive scandal. I've identified between 8 and 11 billion quid of overcharging and underperformance in these pension schemes. That's the scandal that we should be talking about.
Do you think the king may have had cancer because he took a COVID vaccine?
I've no idea. I mean, that's a personal matter between the king and his medical team. And frankly, I'm not interested in discussing such a personal thing.
So at your conference on the platform, your health advisor, Dr.
He's not a health
advisor. He is. He's your health advisor.
Ed, get a grip. He's not a health advisor.
I thought he was. I thought he was advising.
We live in the world of free speech, and occasionally, do you know what you have at conferences? You've been to many conferences. Absolute rubbish. If you're
so he's not advising the Reform Party on health policy.
And we never said he was.
And but you had him on the platform.
Have you lost it? I mean,
I
believe he might help the American government. The joy of free speech is you can have fringe events and people speaking at conferences, talking about stuff, and you might disagree with lots of it. But that is literally the whole purpose of free speech, which is why Nigel was at Congress last week giving testimony about the power of free speech.
And here's the clash. Ed wants censorship. Tice insists on open debate. Which side are you on?
We don't want comedians arrested by 5 armed officers because, frankly, we live in an authoritarian state where Keir Starmer decides what is acceptable or not acceptable.
The thing is, Richard Tice, you see, I have been listening very carefully to the interviews you've given over the last couple of years. I think that your strategy, the one you want, is to persuade sensible Conservatives who feel that the Conservative Party...
And sensible Labour voters.
Of course. But sensible Conservatives who think the party's lost their way, to come over and join you.
And they have done, in their droves. We're making progress.
Sensible Conservatives don't think the King has cancer because he's taken a COVID vaccine. And when he sees your party putting on a platform at their conference, somebody to spread that kind of, not just misinformation, children will die if parents don't give their kids the MMR vaccine. It's really serious. It's not to be laughed at.
In a sense, the point of free speech and freedom of expression is that if someone says something that we all think, that doesn't sound right, then actually you've shone you've shone sunshine on that issue, and if you think it's ridiculous, well, better that than a conspiracy theory being talked and discussed below the table that no one knows about on the dark web.
But you've invited this person to
He's silenced.
But you've invited this individual to...
I'm flabbergasted that you would think...
That's a rare occasion.
I'm flabbergasted.
Do you not believe in free speech? Do you not believe in sharing ideas? And some of them are sensible and some of them are completely daft.
Was this a completely daft idea?
It may well be. I'm not a medical expert.
I totally agree with free speech. I think the idea that Richard Tice, being a vaccine skeptic on your platform to spread lies and misinformation...
So you agree with free speech as long as you like the message? That's essentially what you're saying. Come on, get a grip.
No,
That's exactly what you're saying, Ed.
I think
as long as you agree with it, you agree with free speech.
See how Ed's tone changes? That's not confidence, that's frustration.
Rich, you're going down Keir Starmer's route.
You have a choice to invite to your conference,
yeah.
don't you? And you invited someone who made a link between the COVID vaccine and the King's cancer and said that it may have been the cause of it. That's not just free speech, because you made a decision to invite that individual onto the stage.
Do you know what's irresponsible? What is irresponsible is to prevent freedom of expression, to prevent the debate of ideas. And if you smear and label people, then bad stuff gets discussed in conspiracy theory ways under the table. I think actually one of the reasons we're leading in the national polls is because people
that's free speech.
They like
a completely shocking thing to say.
They like the message that we give about free speech, freedom of expression, not being arrested for being a comedian, putting out an offensive tweet.
Say what you like on a Reform platform, that's free speech, even if it is not only misinformation, but deeply irresponsible and would cause people to lose their lives.
And it may well be completely daft and irresponsible.
But that's okay.
Hey,
We let people say the daft, irresponsible things because we're the
You say
reform
daft,
party.
irresponsible things sometimes on this show, Ed.
Not on a reform platform, I don't.
You've said that to me.
Not on a reform platform.
You've got a bigger platform here on this show than I've got on a reform platform.
And
lots of people disagree with what you say and think it's completely bonkers.
But if we said something about the king's cancer, which is not based on fact, and would lead to other people not taking vaccines when they should, and children losing their lives with the measles, we would be condemned as deeply irresponsible, and you just laugh it off.
But isn't the joy that we've been able to debate this now and said that, yeah, that's obviously, probably completely and utterly daft. Better to talk about it in the open, right, than actually people discuss it and that theory swirl around in the dark web, Ed. I think, actually, we're doing a public service, you and I together.
So basically, you're going to put on your platform over the next 2 or 3 years every mad idea as a public service.
Now you're being daft.
I mean,
now you're being daft and mad.
It's ridiculous. No,
You're being ridiculous.
No, I'm showing you the ridiculousness of your position.
Maybe people learn lessons and make progress, and we discuss things. And you know, at conferences, mad things get discussed on fringe events. We've seen plenty of mad things at Labour conferences that you've attended, Mr. Balls.
Look, can I ask about Lucy Connolly, because it's a highly controversial case, of course. Lucy Connolly, you described, or the Reform Party described, as Britain's favourite political prisoner. She is, of course, somebody who pled guilty to a charge
due to bad advice that she received from the legal system.
Racial hatred.
She should never have pled guilty.
Racial hatred against asylum seekers, and served time in prison as a result.
Which she should not have done.
So, but that is our legal system, that she pled guilty and therefore
our current Prime Minister
was automatic.
Was the Director of Public Prosecutions, who in 2013 said the guidance should be that someone who puts out an offensive tweet, who then deletes it and shows remorse, should not be prosecuted and not be jailed. But then he changed and became a sort of authoritarian individual stroke monster who essentially ordered the judiciary to impose the harshest sentence on these people. And that's what happened.
He told the judiciary what to do.
He stood up, the Prime Minister of this country, and said he wanted the harshest possible sentences. That's essentially what he did. And that's why those sentences were handed down. That's why that's why those people were advised to plead guilty when they shouldn't.
No say about what judges said.
Why did Ricky Jones, who did something, I think, far more offensive, live on TV, he pled not guilty and he got off. That's the way our system works. That is it. But I think Lucy and others, they were wrongly advised on cases, their cases at the time. Lucy should have pled not guilty.
She didn't. She pled guilty.
Correct. And do you know what?
She served time as a result.
We're not all perfect. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the nature of life. And actually, I think we should accept that, and you learn from it. I saw Lucy in prison.
Is she going to work with reform? Is you going to
I think
employ her in some
I spoke to her husband and Lucy yesterday. They're obviously enjoying freedom now, and they'll work all that out. But I think that in terms of lessons learned and the ability to apply that about the importance of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, if she wants to, she's got potentially a very good role to play.
Even if it's racist.
We all make mistakes, Ed, OK?
Her tweet says...
So are you essentially saying that if you make a mistake, you can never have any contribution to society ever again? You've made mistakes. You've said daft things. You're still making a contribution to society.
I do.
OK.
I do.
Richard Tice.
If you think free speech in Britain matters, hit that like button right now. It pushes this video against the algorithm's bias. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next breakdown, because these clashes are shaping Britain's future. Share this video with friends and family and leave your thoughts below. Was Tice right to call out Labour's hypocrisy, or did Ed Balls land a blow?